So to get started, if you could just close your eyes and visualize your space, be that your study space, your bedroom, your living room, the library, even though we can't go there right now, and visualize your routine when you go to study. Do you stop by your kitchen and pick up some cookies? Do you turn off the television? Do you swing by your brother or sister's rooms and see how they're doing before getting started? And really think about what's your routine when you get started and you know you're about to study. Where do you spend your time when you're studying? Do you go outside when it's nice weather and hang out there and listen to nature? How do you react looking to the space that you're living in and you're studying in? What's your initial reactions when you go into there? Is it something that you're dreading because the space itself isn't a space you want to be in? Or is it something that you're looking forward to? And then where do you normally study? If you're lying in bed with your laptop propped on your knees while snacking, you might need to reconsider adjusting your study space. It's not exactly the most healthy habit to be in, and it doesn't help your sleep cycle as well when you do everything from your bed. So if your eyes are still closed, go ahead and open them back up. We're going to be talking about what you need to be aware of in some steps. So be aware of the amount of space and the size of the furniture you have in your space. The picture on this, you can see it's cluttered. There's way too much going on. And if you work in a space that's got a lot of big pieces of furniture, you could start to feel claustrophobic. So keeping your space simpler can help you organize your mind and help you relax or focus. There's less to distract you and less to distract your mind. You need to figure out what works for you, and that can be trial and error. You're not going to always get it right on the first try. So furniture that's flexible and easy to move can be really helpful. You can move it around your space, see what works. Maybe your desk needs to be right next to the window. Maybe you prefer it not to be the window, but have the window to your back. Maybe you don't have a window to work with, but having the option to move your furniture around will help you figure out a space that works better for you. You might also have to consider having systems in place to facilitate organization and tidying. So bookshelves, pencil holders, things like that that keep it off of the main work surface itself. If you have limited space wherever you are for studying or relaxation, consider wall-based organizations, specifically shelves, or like in the picture here where they've got some cubbies that mount to whatever that board is behind it. Something that keeps it off the floor that will let you have still some free floor space. Again, a cluttered space has been proven to drain energy. There's studies about it. It's going to negatively impact your overall mood and your self-image. And if you're studying for a hard test, the last thing you want to do is have negative energy about you, be really unsure as to what's going on. So if you clean up the space, keep it as organized as you can, then you're going to be off to a better start. And remember, your home is your space. So it's your space to respect and personalize and flourish, but it's also a space that should help you feel like you're doing the same. So how to set up your spaces for success. We're going to break it down to 4 fairly basic steps. These aren't going to necessarily be related to things that you need to go out and buy. Not everybody has a big budget. I know me as a student, most of my budget itself needs to be geared towards school-related things. So the 4 basics are recognizing distractions and eliminating them, access to what you need, lighting, and the temperature of the space. So step 1, remove all distractions, which seems fairly simple. But this means being honest with yourself about what is distracting you. Example, I personally find TV shows distracting. Doesn't matter if it's a show I hate or love. I can't have a TV show on while I'm trying to work or study. It just distracts me. Contrarily, I don't find movies distracting, probably because I can go back and rewatch it and don't care about the noise that's happening at that time. But music is one of the best ones that you can use to keep yourself from silence, but also not be distracted itself. And you need to be honest about what kinds of music, and it may not be the same for each type of studying you're doing. So I need music, preferably instrumental or classical, when I'm trying to read or write. But if I am, for architecture, trying to design something, I prefer something that has some words to it, something that's a little bit more upbeat. And I recognize between the two different types of work I'm doing, I'm going to need a different music for it. And it's okay to not have the same thing all the time or to be the same preferences as your best friend. If at all possible, put all your video games away and do not study in the same room as them. There is absolutely no such thing as multitasking especially if you're playing a video game. Um, you're concentrated on the game. You're not going to be focused on your studying or your homework. And if being in the same room of it as that game is too much, then find a different study space so you're just completely away from that distraction itself. I suggest turning off your phone notifications if you can't simply put your phone away. I know we love our phones, we're attached at the hip to them. You never know who might text or call, but it can also distract from your studying. Having your phone just right there waiting for something to come in or anything to come in, regardless of what the notification is, always will distract you from reading what you were supposed to be reading or writing what you're supposed to be getting done. So if you can put it away, great. If you can't, try to silence your notifications. When it comes to your computer, shut down excess tabs. There are easy ways we try to get ourselves distracted without realizing it, and having an excessive amount of tabs open while trying to study can be one of those ways. This also means that maybe you need to close your university email. Maybe you need to shut down Canvas or Dashboard or whatever your university system uses. You can still get your work done without being minute per minute in touch with what may change and what may come in. And any big assignments aren't going to be changing at that moment where you need to stop everything. So making sure that you're aware of how many tabs are open and make sure that they're actually relevant to what you're trying to study for. So if you're researching for a paper, only have tabs open that are relevant to the research for the paper. Multiple monitors is a tough one, and it depends on what you are doing for studying. Having two different monitors doing two different things can be distracting. If you have a paper up on one and you've got your email up on the other, your eyes are going to be bouncing back and forth, and it's ultimately going to make the amount of time you're working on something longer. But for some things, I know art-related things or other things like from architecture, as my background, having two screens would allow me to have the precedent study, the building I'm looking at open while also designing, so I know what I'm specifically referencing. But there is no such thing as multitasking. So thinking, I'll have history up on one computer monitor and I'll have English up on the other, you're not actually going to be doing yourself the benefit of getting both done faster. You're going to just be distracting yourself further or making it a longer process than it actually needs to be. Messy food and junk food and drinks. I personally am one of those people who, if I know I'm studying, wants to get me a little tea, get me some snacks. And those can be useful if you're being smart about them. Having your water set out ahead of time, maybe having a granola bar next to you ahead of time. Those are great. But having a bag of Cheetos open while you're typing on your computer not only makes your computer a mess, but junk food itself doesn't stimulate your mind in the best ways. So being smart about what you are trying to keep with you as well. Maybe instead of that bag of chips, you get an apple and keep it next to you. It's always okay to be prepared if you know you're going to be studying for the entire afternoon. Get that snack so you're not always trying to think about your next mini meal. You have it ready for you. Similarly, if you live with family or friends, other people are distracting and you may love them to death, but they will understand if you need to be separated from them while you're about to study. And it's always easier and more understanding if you let them know ahead of time. I'm in a house with a sister who's also getting her master's degree, and when we sit down to study, it's very much known, like, nope, this is my time, I'm studying, I will let you know when we can talk. And your family and your friends will understand this. Similarly, be respectful of other people in your area, in your space, in your home who are trying to study, and let them study. Let them be in their moment instead of trying to have all the conversations. So step 2, having easy access to everything you need before you start. So if you're like me, you keep most of your stuff in your backpack or right next to your backpack. So if you don't study where you place your backpack down after you get home from class, bring your backpack and those books into wherever room it is that you're studying and put them next to where you will be. So that way you're not getting up in the middle of trying to get something done because you forgot something. You have it right there. You can just reach out and grab it and you're not searching through everything. And some of that goes back into trying to keep the space a little bit more organized. And then, as mentioned, just in step 1 is about having stuff prepared. A water, your healthy snack before you start next to you can also be really beneficial. And it's the same thing. You have it there, so that's not something that you're using as a excuse to just, nope, I'm not studying right now. I got distracted because I needed to go get myself something to eat. It's right there. Study space essentials. Comfortable ergonomic chair or standing desk. If you are uncomfortable where you're sitting or standing while you're studying, you are going to focus more on being uncomfortable than on what you are actually supposed to be doing. If you are lucky to have a standing desk, then maybe you put a yoga mat or a soft rug under your feet so that way you're not just standing on something hard. Similarly, find a chair that works for you. You don't need to buy the most expensive name brand desk chair out there. But you should find a good chair for you. It shouldn't be an armchair that you would fall asleep in by a fireplace. It also shouldn't be a stool that you would sit on at a bus stop. It should be something that you could sit comfortably for a longer period of time, but not relax to the point where you might fall asleep. An external mouse, I have one for my work computer and one for my personal computer. These are great for multiple reasons, including that using the touchpad on your laptop isn't actually good for your wrists, and you'll move faster if you have an external mouse. And then your computer if necessary, and being honest if it's necessary. If you have homework or studying that is from a book, maybe you should just put your computer away for the moment and focus on that book. Again, taking your textbooks out, whatever shape they take. If you've got a textbook that's PDF, making sure that's pulled up. If you've got a physical book, having that next to you. If it's in Kindle book or something like that, making sure it's open to what you need for those. Notebooks or however you take notes. So if you're somebody who has window or Word open and you type as you go your notes, then make sure you're prepared for that. You've got it set up so it reads as you would take notes. I suggest physically writing down anything you're studying. It's been proven in studies that there's a correlation between physically writing something and memory. And so I personally am a physical note taker and transfer it to the computer. But that's just me, and that doesn't work for everybody. So know what works for you and have that prepared for when you're actually going to sit down. And then an extra pad of paper. Regardless of how well prepared you are, your mind can wander from time to time. It's natural. So having a extra pad of paper next to you that you can just write some of these thoughts down and then get back to work can be really beneficial. It's like the idea of if you're wanting to remember a dream, immediately writing it down when you wake up. It's like that. You can come back to it. You're just not in it at that moment. You've written it down to remember at a moment later. And plenty of writing utensils. I know everybody has their own preference, mechanical pencil versus regular sharpening pencils versus pens, felt tip pens, gel pens. Million different options out there. If you use a quill for some reason, that's great. But make sure you have plenty of it. I know I'm a color coder. If I showed you my planner, you would think I was a little OCD about it, but it helps me to have all those colors readily available. So when I'm going to my studio courses, those are green. I write in green. My notes are in green. If I'm writing notes electronically, that is in green. And it correlates all of those to it. But then I also know when I'm sitting down to study whatever course that is, that, okay, I'm ready because I've got this all laid out and I've got the right pen that I need so that I'm not confused at a later night. And good lighting, which we will talk about in a moment. So, like I said, we're going to experiment with lighting. Your computers are not the best lighting in the world, especially if you're studying while it's dark. They give off a harsh light. They give off blue light. These aren't good things for your eyes, and they can lead to headaches. Instead of buying a bunch of different light bulbs for your desk lamp or your overhead lamp or whatever, it might be best to think about investing in a lamp that has a dimmer with it. If you absolutely need to have your computer open for an extended period of time, this is not on the slide. I would consider getting some blue light glasses. That's what I have on here. You don't need a prescription for them, but they have a filter on it so that it blocks some of that harsh light and de-stresses your eye, which de-stresses your brain, and you're not getting as much of that tension buildup. So those are things to consider. So you can see in the pictures, there's the desk lamp behind, and then there's the fluorescent lamps we see all over campus. If you only have a fluorescent lamp, maybe think about getting something that you can have a different lighting intensity with. Natural lighting is always good. If you have the opportunity to study next to or by a window, please do so. I would suggest avoiding direct sunlight, especially if you're using your computer, because you don't want to have to deal with the reflection of that. But natural lighting does wonders for your mind and your soul, and there's something related between seeing outdoors and feeling a little bit more relaxed. Please don't study by the light of your device. At least have something else on. If it's at all not possible, you need to study with your laptop on your lap in bed, then at least have another light in the room, just so you're not getting all of that harsh light of the computer on you. It'll help you to focus on what needs to be done if you're not solely relying on that device. And that goes well beyond studying. There's a reason they say put your phone away before you sleep. All of those things correlate to be able to actually get things done effectively. And if at all possible, study next to a window that opens, Because then if you're getting too hot, too cold, if you just need to hear outside noises, you have that option to open the window. In our final step, if possible, adjust your study space to the ideal temperature. If you have an option, adjust the thermostat. Not every room, not every house has that option, but if you do, adjust it. If you don't, having a space heater or a fan as readily available can be really useful in adjusting that space's temperature while you're trying to get things done. And be aware of your study space's condition. And this goes beyond just your personal space. If, say, the library was open to studying right now and the library runs cold, you'd need to be aware of that too. So being prepared, if it is a cold room, bringing a hoodie with you. If you're in your own room or your house, maybe you have a blanket with you. And it'd be better to have that readily available to you than to be sitting there shivering and not actually studying, or getting up and down because you don't know if you need something or not. Similarly, and that's not necessarily on this slide, if you know the room you're going to be in is hot, then maybe you think about having a fan, or you wear your summer clothing while you're studying, or you have an open window, something that can let some fresh air or some cool air come by you so that you're not sitting there sweating, feeling like you just worked out while you're studying. This should be the ideal temperature for you while you are awake and doing things. The last thing you want to do is have a temperature that makes you feel so cozy and relaxed that instead of studying, you're falling asleep. And if you're falling asleep regardless of what temperature you're at, you might just need to get more sleep on a regular. There are a lot of studies about the ideal office temperature, and I know, speaking from experience, that men tend to want a cooler office environment than women do. So whatever works best for you, you just need to be aware of. And if you're sharing a space with other people that you can't specifically adjust the temperature to, like it says, that 72 to 77 degree range, then again, having those other options available, a fan, your hoodie, a blanket, other things available to you readily at that moment. And your final considerations, because you need to remember your education is about you. And so you need to study in a way that's beneficial to you, not beneficial to your best friend, to your sister, to your mom, whatever works best for you. That includes your space. Wherever you're studying needs to work for you. There are other things like biophilic design. It involves bringing nature into your spaces. So if you don't have access to a backyard or a garden or anything like that, then maybe you look at getting a couple indoor plants, and they don't have to be super complex ones that you have to read a manual to take care of, because there are plenty of those. But if you have some touches of nature inside, they can also help to relax the mind. And if you're not a big plant person, then look into things like succulents that don't require a lot of maintenance, but that still bring that outdoors in. I personally think pets can also be great on that. There's no technical study that proves that yet, but that's also a good way to consider bringing something in that's going to be relaxing. Also remember, though, they can be distracting. So make sure if you do have pets that they're either well trained or behaved if they're going to be in your study space. And then these are just some more resources and where I got some of my information aside from what I've just experienced. There's a lot of studies as to how to set up spaces for wellness, how to set up spaces for relaxation, and how to set up spaces for design itself or for studying itself. So There's a lot of options out there and everybody is different. So you need to find what works best for you.